And we
The
are
stream is live.
live. Hello, world. Welcome, audience. For the first time ever, live in front of the world, the Story World team. Super excited to be here. We are very finished today. Even our most Spanish person was finished before coming into this call, acknowledging outside it's raining. But we are going to keep a smile on our face regardlessly and talk about the future of stories and storytelling. So I'll share my screen and we can go into our amazing presentation we put together today. And here we go. We are Story World. And by the way, I love the fact, Pauli, that you added that is a degree mark, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is a
It is.
degree mark. That makes us unique. I love being different in some sort of way. Now, we are. Hello, I'm Nikki. And together with me from the top down or from the left to right, according to the picture we have.
Hi, I'm Raul.
Hello world, my name is Peter.
And hey, I'm Paulie.
Amazing. We even got the balloons with us. So for our agenda today, Paul is going to handle the opening and the premise. Raul will go into use of AI in story design. Peter will talk about human AI co-creation science. I will talk about what we're building in terms of a community and how we will aim to serve you. And in the end, if we get comments and reactions, we'll also run a round of reflections of our presentations and our learnings. So over to you, Pauli.
Cool. Thanks. And hey, everyone. I suppose quite a many of you know me already, but this is the thing that I've been working on now since last autumn. My background is in marketing, some TV projects in drama and film. And well, by education, I'm a producer, and then later on learned as a writer, wrote a book about this topic as well a few years ago. But that's my background. That's enough of me. Let's go to the logo soup.
Logo soup. Here we go. Logo soup. Thank you, Pauli, for introduction. Over to logo soup.
All right. Go. So there is quite a lot in this landscape, and this is just to cover the basics. So these are the tools and some of the hallmark names that you might recognize, some of them not. We've looked into these and studied how these can be adapted to what film and TV is all about, aka telling stories. So first we have usually the foundation models that are talked a lot, ChatGPT, you all know, and then there's the Google's Gemini and Claude as well from Anthropic, Llama from Facebook. Then there's a lot of these video models. We've looked into them as well. World builders are tools that you can find online, quite a many of them as well, especially useful when crafting a large lore-based narratives. AI
to gain more control as well. So like the video models, you may not have as much control as a movie cinematographer might want when doing the videos, right? So the world builders add control layers to those, and we have Odyssey, a French company, and then we have Mindben, another example, which is a Finnish startup in that space.
Yeah. Then there are the intelligent writing tools. So the tools that are essentially trying to be a new final draft or screenwriter, but they introduce an element of AI into the mix as an assistant. If you have used Google Docs recently, Google has introduced Gemini as part of the Google Docs experience. So pretty similar to that. Then there are quite many of these film industry specific tools that we've probed into as well. But that's about it. This is the landscape that where we are looking at.
Yeah.
And especially what I want to highlight before Raul and Puru talks more and in detail, the thing that we've learned so far is the context that you as a human give to these tools is super crucial. So when you want some quality and an insightful output from these models, you need to brief them. So as long as I have tested and tried, I've played a lot around with ChatGPT and Gemini, but the more I give them and build the context for them, that what am I thinking, then the more useful these models become. Then obviously the hallucination problem that is talked a lot online and in media as well, that's a big problem. It is a problem especially in video. We just witnessed when the video model Runway did their first sort of movie hackathon where they managed to build with their community. They managed to build out whole short films out of these things from scratch. The winning one ended up being a film that actually incorporates the hallucination as a feature in a story. So because there is not that much control yet, we have to somehow accept it as it is. There are many like filmmakers and especially calling themselves as AI filmmakers or AI film production companies that do video-based models and run their film productions completely on them, but they do have significant problems with the consistency of the output. Then obviously the memory is the third problem that is associated with any model. So how big is the context window? How big is the space that you can utilize and work with? And once, especially ChatGPT is pretty bad at it, in my experience, it starts to drop off in the chat window. It starts to drop off the older stuff and can't recall and come back to that information.
Yeah. So when you're training prompts, right? That's what you're like
Yeah.
when you're building and training prompts, then it starts forgetting the old
when
stuff.
you're working, especially for example, the tests that I've made, like adapted screenplays from public domain IP, the ChatGPT context window, aka memory, is not as good, for example, as in Gemini.
Yeah.
But that's about like the things that we've looked into in text-based mostly. Then some of you who are watching this now might have heard from us already. We might have talked with you guys already. So there's been like 50-ish film and TV people, like mostly working in content development side, less on the actual production pipeline, like line producer or production managers. That's the audience that we're still looking to go to, but we've started from directors, writers, and producers. Then obviously, since our background is pretty much all on tech, we've naturally talked with tech investors, tech entrepreneurs, and also technical developers, what they see and how they approach these problems. And we try to distill that insight here to you.
Yes.
What we've seen so far, based on the conversations that we've had with you guys in the film industry, we've seen that some of the opportunity lies in fast iteration times. It can drastically cut down, like, for example, the latency that humans have when trying to receive feedback or trying to receive comments. And that commenting cycle, getting the notes in, adds quite a significant latency in the development process. Then one of the scary moments that I've personally had with these tools are the conceptual clarity, or how well they can grasp on the high level ideation of certain concepts, and how well they can handle themes. Then again, on a downside, when you go to detail levels, they tend to break down. So I haven't been able to actually push out a decent like dialogue from these models.
When you're
But
going from a high level, right, to the detail.
yeah,
When you start at a high level, going down to detail, the dialogue still feels off.
yeah. Then feedback and perspective is obviously something that goes back to the first point about the fast iteration, is that I found it very useful, and did some couple of tests with different filmmakers about their scripts and their IP, and how to get new perspectives, how to actually manage to break some sort of perspective locks, or that a project is trying to a halt and creators doesn't necessarily know what to do next. This is actually a pretty powerful way to gain a new perspective, and it's sort of, now big quotation marks, second set of eyes. Then a lot of the filmmakers that are advanced with AI, they talked with us how you can automate all the nitty-gritty stuff. This is also a good parallel to coding and tech people and how they use AI, is that all the tedious, repetitive processes can be just offloaded to the AI. But as a sort of final note on my part, I wanted to remind you all of the perspective, because we talked about artificial intelligence. Yes, sure, it's artificial, but the intelligence part is something that I'm not so sure of. It is essentially a very, very advanced autofill, and we could just approach it like that. It doesn't necessarily have intelligence in it. And just this week, or was it last week? Who remembers? But Apple did the tests where they kind of revealed how these models break down, and how they, even the reasoning models, they don't reason. That they are essentially pattern recognition, and hence we should, when we use these tools to create, or help us to create art, then it is about like always being mindful that how intelligent they seem, they are essentially a prediction tool.
That is true, and we can go into more details about this, right? And Raul is going to talk about what prompting looks like when you get started, and Peter will talk about a bit about the science part of it. And when you say it's an advanced autofill, you still haven't experienced yourself, right? So we haven't experienced that when it comes to actually creative work, the same way developers don't feel that, or not all developers still feel that AI can produce like output that they feel comfortable about. The same way that the creative individuals don't feel that like the final say or final output is still not at par with their own work.
Yeah, and especially when in creative writing in this field that is relevant to film and TV content development, this is like very crucial when you go to the details, as I mentioned, like trying to prompt and get alternatives for your dialogue. Well, quite a many who have tried that have told us that how they might have a snappy or some good, like a quick comment that they can use in a script, but most of it is not on par what humans write. So essentially, like you have on your phone, we have used autocorrect or predictive text input for a long time now. So essentially, this is a very advanced predictive text input.
Or at least in the experience from those we've talked to so far.
Yeah.
On that note, should we move
Yeah.
on to next
Sure,
section?
because then this was the basics, and I wanted to
Yes.
lay the land.
Go
Well,
ahead, Raul.
Yeah, thanks. That was super interesting, and we've been talking about this like long in the past few months, and yeah, it's kind of we are in an interesting moment with all these tools, and definitely script writing is or movie making is something that this somehow it's really engaging, and it's really nice to see every week these new models doing like new videos, and this new Google one VO3 like doing these crazy parodies of things that they look super real. So thanks Pauli. Before I would acknowledge that there's people saying hi, so hey, we are live. Yes. So hey, my name is Raul. My background, well, I've been working in design for almost, well, more than 10 years at this point. I've done a lot of marketing, I've done a lot of branding, and I've done a lot of digital design. And in this part of my career, I'm focusing more on the experience of products and services. So that's kind of like the angle I have here in this whole thing. And what I wanted to briefly discuss or share today is kind of coming back from where Polly was talking, like how should we use these tools? And I guess we have all been in a moment, if we've used these tools, where we've gotten a result that is kind of either mediocre or either really interesting, or and then anywhere in between. So we don't know if it's the time of the day, we don't know if it's because it's sunny outside, or because we actually made an interesting point in the conversation with these tools that we actually got a good result. So it's a tricky thing yet at this point.
To keep consistency.
It's consistency, it's quality of the output is somehow like depending on the tasks one is doing, it's kind of tricky to always get the answer we want. And the problem is that the problem is not that the AI can or cannot write. The problem is that we are somehow treating it like it is like a oracle or a higher power, where it knows what we want and it knows what we need. So definitely the way we interact with them, the way we ask things, and the way we prompt things affect the outputs.
They need to be more specific, right?
Yeah, definitely when we are more specific and when we are more clear about what we want, the answers get better. So yeah, so definitely we could prompt things like make this better, make this more interesting or more engaging. But what if we could, for example, control, like, or not control, but like convey that we want that the density of this dialogue it's higher, or the emotional tone is is this or that, or that we want that the character is really behaving this way or behaving this other way, or maybe this description of this place, it's kind of like a raw, or it's more based on facts or based on history, or even the pacing. Do we want something like it says there, like a rapid fire, or is this like a philosophical moment where the character is finding the truth about what they're after? So for sure we can, like Pauli was saying, that it's a tricky thing, for example, in dialogues to get quality. But what are we prompting? What are we asking? What does the tool, what does the LLM know to give us a good result? So as it says here, maybe in the beginning of using LLMs, you can prompt things like, I like things more like Marvel. Okay, it will give you something what this tool understands as Marvel, or what does it understand as adding tension? Is it shouting, or is it just like making it more intense? So this is kind of a tricky thing, right? This is kind of where we're coming from, or maybe like a simpler way of prompting, maybe like a lazy way of prompting, where we are just expecting this oracle to tell us what the truth is and make this best work ever. But if we really want to have a control, and if we really want to be creative with these tools, maybe we need to find better ways to kind of interact with the tool. We cannot expect this tool to be better. For sure, there are going to be companies and there are going to be people working on how to make this even easier, how to make this more like a streamline, how to make this kind of like, oh, it read my mind, right? Like this autocomplete feature that Pauli was kind of mentioning, that it happens currently with different coding tools like Cursor or Windsor, right? You have this tab feature where you get the code based on the context, based on what's happening. So that's really cool, and that can be powerful. But how is that something that we can apply also in storytelling? Maybe a new way of prompting things would be, okay, increase the pacing of this scene by X amount of points, or maintain character depth to this or that. Make this dialogue 3 out of 10. So kind of making sure that these dimensions are clear and that you are able to control what's happening in that dialogue in this case, right? So what is the future way of doing things? So, well, that's kind of what we are trying to find out here. We are trying to find ways of how to interact with these tools, and also how by this interaction we can get a better result, so we can actually get what we want. And that's yet to be seen. There are plenty of companies, as I said, doing these or similar things, like in video or audio or text to speech or these kind of things. But we are in a moment where every week there are new things happening. The frontier is broken every month, and we are following this very closely, and we are trying to find these details that actually make using AI like great, and it doesn't feel like it's doing our job. It's kind of like it's our co-writer, is our editor, is our friend, kind of.
And it like something to be said, I think, here, like our choice to like really explore the writing part of things, right? Because most the startups video models are there. Most startups seem to be chasing the video models, right? And we've chosen specifically to look at the writing part of things.
Yeah, and quickly, like in video models, for sure, you are using words to describe scenes, but you cannot control the camera yet. Would we be able to control the camera in 3 months? Well, let's see. That's kind of the interesting thing about this moment, where we are trying to find the controls to use these tools, and those controls are still like to be discovered in many cases.
And the opposing part, right, is to like, there are those who have just started using AI, and the point is to find use cases where there is no control and the hallucination is kind of part of the art. And that's a completely new school way of looking at it. Like Pauli said and remarked that Runway, the video model company, recently had a annual hackathon, and the winner was somebody who had a great story and leveraged the fact that the AI will hallucinate in video models.
Yeah. And like an easy example of like what we were discussing before about prompting, make this more dynamic or actually being super precise. It's like if you're throwing a dice, when you say make this more intense, you're just literally throwing a dice or 10 dices and hoping that you get a 6 in each of those dices. So the more precise we can be, the less how do you say, the less ambiguous we can be, the better results we will get. So
Yes,
Yeah,
Holly, you were.
Yeah, well, like Raul, you had on your slide the interesting that these are mathematical models, so we need to be precise. And when you guys started to hammer that down to me, especially you and Tapani, who were like, just try to be more specific. And then I have been realizing that if I do a lazy prompt and ask a lazy thing, then the answer will be lazy. Kind of like shit in, shit out. But when I realized that, all right, the prompt and doing the prompt well, like forcing the model to check facts, forcing the model to reference the sources, forcing the model to actually use these sources as a basis of what it writes, then I start to get more and more detailed and quality content in terms of like if I want to write a scene that is a fact-based thing.
Yeah.
Or for example, controlling the length of the output. Is that like this is something that we've spoken a lot with the people we've talked to, is like how frustrating it is if it pushes you a wall of text when you just needed a snappy detail, like
Exactly.
snappy thing. And that's also something that you can include in the prompt, that please use bullet points or please use numbered bullet points, so that it is easy for me as a human to use it and utilize that information.
And that's kind of the same. Is somehow we expect this because we've been told that these tools are super intelligent and they are even more intelligent than humans. We expect that they will read our minds somehow. But if you don't ask them, hey, can you make it like, I need bullet points, I need to read this quickly, you know, I don't have time to read half an hour of text here. I'm ideating, so it doesn't understand those things. So it helps, and that's something every person develops, I guess, their own workflows, right? So that's
And
the
I
interesting
think
thing.
On this note, and then before going into the science of things, maybe worth remarking that the level of proficiency is between the people we've talked to is like immense. So in the film industry, many have not even tried to figure things out yet because they are afraid of the changes it's creating to their industry, and there's been a lot of lawsuits around it, right? So they don't even dare to explore, and when they go and explore, they don't have people to talk to about like that because they might be revealing to their peers that they actually look at this and they're wondering how that might be received. Whereas when you talk to the tech people and we're talking about prompting stuff, right? They're light years ahead. They're already like what is the next frontier of all of this, and the rest of the world will just follow. So like it has been hard, especially for me personally, to remember who you're talking to and like how much you learn, and without reservations, and then going back to somebody who hasn't even tried it yet. So that kind of level of difference has been a sobering realization. But on that point, kind of what is science saying about all of this? And Pyry, maybe you wanna
All
do
right.
your intros now.
Cheers, everybody. My name is Pyry, and I'm here to research human AI co-creation. So the act of working with these intelligent machines to create something other than just like, legal text or non-creative factual statements, rather exploring something creative and doing that in tandem with the intelligent machines. I have a background, I did a bachelor's in math, and then had worked in slush and sales and some strategy in terms of like business and financial. But really decided that human-computer interaction is the most intriguing field for me as a humanistic engineer. And especially now with AI emerging, the human-AI co-creation, interaction, collaboration field is just superbly interesting. And I'm going to talk to you about that a bit. So, as we've discussed, prompting is de facto the way we interact with large language models at this point, like in general. You have a chat interface. But if we want to do co-creativity human-centrically, we need to go beyond the prompt. We need to find new ways to interact with these things that are integrated within our natural workflows when being creative, so that the interaction becomes natural and kind of elevates the way we've been doing these things, rather than forces us into a cookie cutter approach of having a little pill into which input text and then expecting something from the like immensely complicated latent space that the model has. But just a bit of groundwork, like we've established that AI is like increasingly capable and it's useful, but the way we use it and the effects of using it in creative work are not well understood. So that's what I want to discover with you. And I want to note before going into these questions here that I believe it's going to be a similarly scaled change in the way we use computing and technology as when we were introduced to the graphical user interface. Like everything will change now that we have these machines that are capable of exhibiting intelligent behavior. But yeah, just a bit of a background. So human AI co-creation has been an active area of research already before ChatGPT, before AI was like what it is understood now as mainly large language models. And back then we were talking about computational creativity and how can human be in a loop with a computer and generate something. And for you in the audience, you might remember that the first times AI was mentioned in newspapers, it was like 50-50. It was like scientific and then it was artistic. So there was always somebody experimenting with these new machine learning models and new AI things to create something. So it's actually like very core to the revolution. And this research into the co-creation is active across fields like writing, to making videos, to making music, to dancing and whatnot. So it's a broad landscape. And within these various landscapes, and even within just like taking like writing, for example, the dominant interaction paradigm, I believe, hasn't emerged yet because I believe it won't be prompting. Prompting is machine-centric, it's LLM-centric, but it's not human-centric. And we need to find a way, maybe somewhere between prompts and graphical user interfaces, where we have a way of interacting with this verbal intelligence such that it's smooth and we're in control and we know what we're doing, instead of throwing darts into, the dark
So
abyss and hoping something comes back.
this is something we've been discussing, right? So will there be one predominant way, or will be the predominant tool of preference, right? So if you're a visual individual, you might want a visual interface to interact with all of the rest of the tools that are out there. The same way a coder knows code, so they want a coding interface to control whatever AI outputs in design, and a designer will want that the other way around. So I
Yeah, for
think this is
sure.
where we go like back and forth of what is the predominant future design, right? And is the alternative future a fragmented based on preference, because you have stuff like the MCPs, right, integrating with every single tool out there. And if you're not integrating your software tools with MCPs, then you're falling behind. Is
Yeah,
what the,
yeah. We'll cover a bit about the interaction modalities in a later slide, but I'll just highlight
yes.
now a few things I'll look at. One will be a study about how can we move beyond prompt response interfaces. Another one will be about what happens to the sense of creative agency when you have an AI that contributes in insignificant amounts to your project or your work. And then I'll take a bit of a detour in the end to ask the question, like, how should psychology relate to the design of human AI co-creation systems? Like, what should we take into account when we want to do human-centric AI, when we want to do AI for people, not engineers? So yeah, let's start first with moving beyond prompt-based interfaces. So this is a really interesting study, a very recent one, just in the May, and it was talking about compositional structures as the basis of human AI co-creation. So you can think of these structures kind of the building block approach to help people plan, edit, and understand what the AI is doing. So in the context of human-computer interaction and AI co-creation, the structures have like two main purposes. It's some structure that allows humans to manage and inspect complex media, so not just text. And it's something that you can ground AI behavior to by constraining like its generative activities and transformations within some clear framework and like a thing you can manipulate. So Nikki, if you click once, we can see what they were working on. So they were creating this what was it called? Something like Ori video or something, a wordplay of origami and video. And they created a system where you have a freeform canvas, you have a linear text editor, a grid-based planner, and a timeline editor. And all of these are connected with AIs that are able to sync and to move information in between and to generate within all of these different modalities of interaction. And what they ended up finding is that this helped the kind of creatives in the test to explore the AI capabilities across the different steps of their workflow. So they were using the AI in the freeform canvas to research, in the linear text to prompt their new ideas or allow them to discover some narrative structures. In the grid-based planner, which is like a scene and a description and a image, they were testing out different sequences, they were testing out different narrations, and then when they moved to the timeline editor, which is like temporal sequencing, they were able to test their video with like AI voice, with AI photos, and then to edit it towards like something more production ready. So if you click once, we can again see the findings from this study. So they found out that the structured interfaces enhance the sense of control and clarity for the users compared to doing these types of workflows with like traditional LLM based. So having your normal editor and then an LLM, maybe having a Miro board and maybe an Excel sheet for the beat board or whatnot. So bringing it all together with AI interactions across these different modalities help the people be more productive and help them feel in control of the AI.
Yeah, I think on that note, like that's the counter argument to what I said earlier. So what this study is saying then that instead of having that one modality to control from, it's the seamlessness of being easily transitioned between the modalities and having that interaction.
Exactly, and as you can see, the next finding is like, okay, reduces manual effort, but the first finding in this
Oh,
slide
sorry.
still,
Yes.
It decreases manual effort and it like accelerates the early stage creation. So whichever modality you want to play with first, it allows you to have the resources kind of build up on the other modalities at the same time. But a few interesting things were found out in here, like as limiting. So this is very like humanistic. When you have high fidelity outputs, even if they're by AI, they introduce a cost of giving them up. So having high fidelity outputs early on inhibit creativity because as humans we're unwilling to let them go. And they found out that when people ended up at high fidelity products early, they got stuck, which has been recorded in studies multiple times.
So if we have Higgsfield, a new video startup that is growing at unprecedented rate, it basically gives you high fidelity output and that actually limits the creativity. So like you want to go to something more simpler in order to maximize the creative effort.
Yeah, the tendency is, according to this study and according to creativity literature in general, is that if you go to high fidelity early on, you get stuck because you are unwilling to give it up. So that's probably a common thing across creativity.
And I think one YouTube video we were looking at together was the Lex Friedman interviewing Roy Rodriguez, the movie scrappy filmmaker who's been into AI before AI was a thing in the industry. And he said he had his actors go and paint stuff in between scenes, so kind of reinforcing the same thing that happens in the human brain, right? Where if you just change your creative modality when you're doing creative stuff, that reinforces the creative output or the overall creative output.
I want to say one last thing about the limiting findings.
Yes.
Like in this interface, even though they had these modalities, there was still some prompting. And the skill in prompting led to a situation where some experts in video like creation felt disempowered by getting like stupid responses by the AI because they were unskilled in prompting, whereas some amateur video creators felt like super empowered because they had some skill in prompting, so they felt they could pick up the skill of creating videos way faster. So there's an interesting dichotomy, like based on where you are in the beginning and your skill in prompting, the response you have psychologically to these tools might be completely different. But moving on to the next one, which is a super psychological study, and the title says it's all like, if the machine as good as me, then what use am I? Then what use am I? Like it's the most humanistic feeling now in the age of constant media attention to these models coming and taking over the world. And what they did, they had a mixed method study of the effects of extensively using ChatGPT and the effects of that on feelings of accomplishment and productivity. And the idea was that the main finding was that as participants relied more heavily on ChatGPT, there were two notable emotional responses. So one was a reduced sense of ownership, and the other one was like a feeling of inferiority towards the model. So when the AI plays a dominant role in a creative process, sometimes the human will feel as if they're not the authors of the work anymore, as if they don't even know the story they're telling, if it's a creative, or feeling as if this was not the picture they wanted to paint. And then sometimes the inferiority comes like if you do some analytical task, even some creative task. Like Pauli was mentioning that he got scared by the kind of like the thematic understanding of the models. Like these things actually happen when you use extensively AI, and I think it is a design problem. So we know that we are capable of overwhelming anybody if we just produce text and text and text and text and with ideas and emotions. So we need to design the interaction such that we don't introduce these feelings to the users of the AI systems. And this is very modality specific. If you use ChatGPT, it's just a faceless expert producing endless amounts of text. Like that's not optimal if you want to feel like you're supported in a creative endeavor. And I think it's important to pause here and recognize how counterproductive like this emotional response can be if it's a creativity task that you're doing. Like first of all, artistic practice or creative, it isn't just about the product you create, it's also about wanting to be creative and doing the thing. It's like a autotelic act. You do it for the meaningful, rewarding process of doing it. And if people feel their contributions don't matter, then we've just destroyed everything with the AI. So we can't let AI be that thing. Like in my opinion, we cannot allow it to end up being something we plug into products that kill us the enjoyment. So that's something we really need to find ways to nail, and it's not well established in literature or in like products out there how this should work so that the human feels that they are the creative engine behind the process, even though when they're making use of AI.
Yeah, and
So,
that is especially true when you're building a tool for creative endeavors, right?
Exactly,
So
exactly.
the
You don't want
other
it.
go ahead.
Yeah, you don't want it to be like just the feeling of curating. You want it to feel like it's creating. So there's a difference, right? I can
Yeah.
curate you some articles that I've read or essays. I can reference those, but I haven't written them. I feel no ownership, no control, no proudness on them.
Yes.
But yeah,
Let's go to the next one in the interest of
let's go to
time.
the next one because this ties well into what the finding was. So what then does it mean to design for motivation and engagement? Like, if we don't want to end up in a situation where you're disengaged, disempowered, what would it mean to design for motivation and engagement? And in psychological literature, there is a very well established construct, if you're from the psychological fields, called self-determination theory, which posits that autonomy, which is acting with sense of volition and alignment with one's values, competence, feeling capable and effective in co-creative processes, and relatedness, feeling connected, in this context, even with technology you're collaborating with. Like, these are base level needs for you to feel that you're in control. And when we want to design for the future of AI co-creation, we want to aim not only to entertain or to assist, but to promote meaning, mastery, and self-expression over just the novelty or the speed of working with AI. And that's a big design challenge for sure. Like, how do we make these systems act so that we achieve these goals? And then luckily uh, we have this framework to evaluate against from the psychological literature called METICS. So it's a model for motivation, engagement, and thriving in user experience, which we can use, and it works on different levels. So, you have the interface, but also the task, it needs to be supported. The behavior that the human does needs to be like fostered for positive. The user's life needs to be enriched by their identity of being creative and such, and the society needs to be enriched by people becoming creative. So we need to design these systems for holistic, not narrow well-being and thriving and mastery. So that's like an immense challenge, and I think this is one of the most interesting
Yeah.
things we're heading into. As
But I
there
think,
certainly are fears of people coming disempowered, disengaged when they work with AI.
yeah, I've personally, my experience, so I've like, right, that I've used poetry for
Yeah.
like self-expression. So there is value in using AI tools to kind of augment that into other modalities in terms of self-expression, especially like as an amateur who's not fixed on what sort of creative outlet I'm identifying with. So like if I'm a poet, I will always write poetry, right? But with the AI, without using assistance of other creative individuals, I can go really broad, really fast, right? And
Yeah.
that allows it for it. And the
And you
interesting
can
part
still
about,
drive it.
yeah, I don't know, Pauli, how you feel like about, because you've been practicing, as we discussed, you've been practicing directly on like just script writing, going from like idea and then trying to get the nitty gritty even right? But like, what is your experience here, Pauli, on this particular, like, have you tried, like, where is your head today on this subject?
Where's my head in? I don't know. It's hopefully somewhere here where my head is. Yeah, I'm like, it's super interesting to see these presentations for the first time myself as well. Like, super interesting stuff. And Puru, you said the act of writing being enjoyable. That's something that hopefully answers to you as well, Nikki, is that with many screenwriters and writer directors we've spoke to, we've end up talking about the fact that they actually enjoy the writing. So don't take that away. The thinking that happens somewhere over here and the feeling that you get somewhere on top of your head when the ideas start to flow, and when you figure out that, all right, this is the thing that I'm going to do, this is how all these pieces are put together, and you feel the thrill, the creative thrill of writing. It's essentially it's like assembling your thoughts, and and that is the core thing that creative writers want to do. Then it's a question of how can we in the future use AI in a way that, all right, do my dishes or do the all other nitty gritty stuff that I actually don't want to do.
Yeah, but that's a question of preference. Like on the in the defense of doing dishes, that is my form of therapy. So bloody hell, the times I want to do the dishes, I better get to do the dish. No, I'm just kidding. It would be nice to get the robots doing that sometime soon as well. Before we move over to me, do you, Pyri, wanna conclude your thoughts on the research?
Yeah, I'll just say like it's super interesting time. We're at a similar time where like somewhere in the 80s, early 80s, 82, I think it was, Steve Jobs said in this design conference, he said like people are going to be interacting with these things 2, 3, 4 hours a day, and they can be shit or they can be beautiful and nice. So he was talking about computers. Now we are in a situation where like people are and are going to be interacting with these intelligent machines 2, 3, 4 hours a day in the future. And it can be just prompting back and forth with all the frustration that comes with it. Or it can be, as we are already seeing, it can be like prompting for a website that you can then directly edit, or it can be like creating a video in this multimodal interface with the AI there. It can be the most creatively empowering thing ever, or it might be the worst thing for creativity ever, and it's all up to like, do we get the products out there that use AI for empowering creativity, or do we just get flooded by, AI slop? So let's
Yeah.
fight for the side of the creatives, right?
Yes, that is why we are here. So hi everyone, I'm Nicholas. Friends call me Nikki. Background events and startups. I've coached around the startup scene, and have a background in product and people stuff. In terms of this community we're building, on content and curation. So we exist to help you craft stories by exploring innovation. The way Peter just went into the science of things, and what we didn't go here is show you a bunch of different tools. So we are in a hard exploratory form instead of saying this is it, this is it, this is it. Now we build this, now we build that. We're still exploring, and we want to build a forward-looking community for filmmakers, writers, and creative leaders by providing them the tools and the knowledge and the insight to do their work in a tech-driven or AI-driven world. So our channels currently, before we scale to other platforms, is Substack and Discord. So on Substack, we'll be writing on the industry insights. We will be doing, and Peter will be doing AI experience interviews, and we'll share some learnings from that. We'll share learnings on our journey in general and updates on our development. And then on Discord, we hope to have discussions like these. The point of doing this live, and then us coming in with different content that we haven't briefed each other on, kind of adds to what it feels like when we're exploring this journey in general, right? So this is a glimpse of what we hope the community to be like. We're discussing, we're posting content, we're going into it, we're exploring together. And then we've also had kind of what sort of product should or should not build. We've been deliberately gone into the creative writing part because there is value in having the story ready in written format, and then figuring out in what sort of way you want to express that story in other modalities. It might be something different in the future, but it's a deliberate choice currently, kind of to cater towards those who enjoy doing creative writing. quick shout out to those who helped us in the background so far. So Tapani, our LLM expert and enthusiast, Petteri, our legal advisor, Roger, who took our profile pictures, and Tina, who's helping up setting up Discord. The believers, those who want to fund us and our journey forward, and the companies we've had discussions with, and the communities, Kaswa AI, who's been into this AI scene, young fellows, a couple of them screenwriters themselves, Dotteri on legal stuff, Creative AI Finland, pioneers in Finland using AI to do creative expression, Tuolin Kantajat, shout out, Tiga V, all of the entrepreneurs who's been part of doing young entrepreneurial endeavors from Finland, and Confidential Mind, especially on the cloud and LLM engineering, and teaching us about how to run LLMs in closed environments. For me particularly, and like personally coming from like a startup tech background, the similarities between the startup tech scene and the movie industry is astonishing. Like between me and Paolo, we use terminology the wrong way, because when you're pitching a movie idea, it feels like you're pitching a startup idea, and it needs to be funded and not funded. And there's so many similarities. And then like, who is doing something AI, and is AI overhyped or not, right? All of these things. And especially coming from Finland, I'm happy to come here. You have like your audience and your users are tech digitally native, and you have very little resources to do anything in an environment, especially if you're doing something for the local market. You have the language barrier of just like 7 million people who consume content in Finnish language, who understand it, right? But then AI is changing all of this, right? So if we can make it here, we can make it anywhere. And that goes for startups as well as the movie makers from our local scene. And we don't hope to make this only local here. We're going for a global community who wants to embark on this journey. So thank you, everyone, for your attention, your time, and hope to see you in Discord live. Follow us on Substack, jump in our Discord channel, or just feel free to shoot emails or messages directly to us. Any final words from the team?
That was fun.
No sun. Rainy day today.
Yeah.
Raul, you're being on mute for 40 minutes.
Trying to be respectful, man. I have the dogs here barking and moving around, so I just want to keep the
clean, no, that's cool.
I mean, for everyone listening.
No, I mean, like, it was super cool to see these presentations for the first time, and what you were actually talking about. Like, I mean, we obviously did the deck, but I didn't know what you were gonna say, and I was super interested in, at least on my behalf. It's always very interesting to hear from you.
And thank you, audience.
Yeah, and thank you for the audience. And then one of the kind of final teaser that I was thinking that maybe we should. This was sort of an introduction to us who've been pushing this daily now. But I mean, maybe if we do this next time, if there will be a next time doing these kind of live sessions,
there will be more of these.
That's what I thought. So I mean, less technical maybe next. How about that? As the least technical person here.
All right, let's go, guys. Thank you, audience, for watching. As stated, find us on our webpage. You see us, the team, Phil, reach out. Pyri has all of the amazing extra things going on. I don't know if I can do that.
Cool. No. Thank you, everyone.
All right.
That was fun.
Thanks.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.